Battle, aka Nino's Corner, man. We got Ty from Around the Table Sports, and Steven has graced us with his presence today from Fanatic Perspective. What's going on, guys?
Well,
Man,
well, how
same
are
old,
you?
same old.
Same old, man. You guys know how the show goes, man. Like quick little commentary. I'm like searching Kentucky football, and every time I put in Kentucky in college, the first thing that comes up is basketball, and so you have to like specify football and make sure you get the right schedule. The first schedule I pulled up had like some mid-major tournament win or something like that. So it is what it is. Yeah, yeah, folks. So Jay won't be with us today. He is working, and Chris, you know how Chris is. Chris always shows up about 5 minutes late. That's just Chris. So today, folks, we're going to talk about over under win total here for Kentucky. Per on three, their actual win total is 6.5 is what they're estimating. So we're going to do an over under just like we did the last couple of weeks. This is going to be a really fun session, and just go game by game for Kentucky and what do we think they're going to do this season. So let me go ahead and add the scene here so we can go ahead and look at the schedule. You guys see the schedule?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
All right. Week one, Ball State. I think we don't even have to talk about this, right?
W.
W, Kentucky, 1-0.
W.
1-0, Kentucky.
Or else we're having different conversations about Coach Stoops. But
Yeah.
Week two, folks, Eastern Kentucky. Come on, it's a dub.
we
That's a
should be
dub.
good.
Should be good. Week three, the Fighting Zips of Akron. It should be a dub too, right?
It
That's where
should be.
this is where Devin Leary is now at 10 touchdowns, no picks,
Yes.
building up a
Heisman,
little
Heisman
the high.
candidate.
Number one betting favorite. Yeah.
Hey, you know what? We're
Yo,
laughing about that right now. But if they go into week four against Vanderbilt and they beat Vanderbilt and they go 4-0, we have something to talk about with Devin Leary. And I'm glad you said Devin Leary, Stephen, because Devin Leary, I was talking to Ty about this last week. Devin Leary, I think, is going to be a better quarterback than Levis as far as the collegiate level. I loved what he did at North Carolina State. I think he passed for 65%, 3,200 yards, 32 touchdowns, 5 picks, I think, 2 years ago. Last year had a pretty good start to the season, tore his right pec, and it kind of cost him like the whole season. But he's going to be back in here full fledged, full form, man. And I think Devin Leary's going to ball out this year, folks. I think he's going to ball out. How about you, Ty? What you think, man?
Look, I thought it was a great addition. I've talked to several people who are kind of down on Devin Leary, and I tend to side a bit more with you, Nick. I like the move, and I actually think the what Stoops did in the transfer portal is compelling. He got some offensive line talent
Yep.
after they lost some offensive line talent. But one of the biggest pickups, and this is going to carry over into the next team we're going to talk about, is what they got at running back.
Oh, you stealing it from me, Ray Davis?
Ray Davis, who is over 1,000 yard running back from Vanderbilt, and
Yes,
Vanderbilt already couldn't get any offense as is, right?
exactly.
Kentucky had an interesting offseason, right? So we joke, you hit the nail on the head. We joke about them heading into Vanderbilt, but like they are going to be in a good position, at least in this point of the season, which they should be. God have mercy on their souls if they're not.
Yeah, exactly. Steve, how about you, man?
yeah. I mean, if you look at just this September, I mean, I know we're getting ready to get to this Florida game, which is at Kentucky, right? So at home for them. This September slate, I mean, if you're Coach Stoops, this is as good a slate as you can ask for September, right? In terms of coming into a season, understanding the letdown that was last season, coming off that 10-win year in 2021. For whatever reason, I know you mentioned Will Levis and some of the challenges they had acclimating with the younger offensive players and some of the offensive line challenges. They hit the portal hard with offensive line, right?
Hmm.
Bringing in, some guys, a new left tackle from the FCS level, but a guy that they feel is going to start for them. They got people coming in from USC and Ohio State. So this slate that they have here is the perfect opportunity to build up confidence, build up some reps. Maybe they're not these obviously aren't the most formidable teams, but you're also returning a defense that was pretty good and pretty sound, and has some guys that will be having contract years. I feel like this is as good a situation as you can ask for schedule-wise for the month of September for the Kentucky Wildcats, in my opinion.
Exactly. Oh, Chris with a K is on. Chris with a K, my brother from another. What's going on, man?
What's up, Chris?
What's up, y'all? What's up, man?
Look, man. Hey, you didn't miss anything. We're 3-0 right now.
I filled in the picks for you. Yeah, we're good.
We got Kentucky, starting the season 3-0, going into Vanderbilt, and we're just talking about all the great transfers that they got coming in here from the portal. Yes, Stephen, but to kind of piggyback on it, they had great additions from the portal, but I want to kind of focus on what they already had here in the team. Their top 3 wide receivers last year are all back. Who was it? Berrien Brown, outstanding stud. I mean, top 100 player here in the country last year. True freshman, came in and did great things for them. Also, who was the second guy that they had? Dane Key. Dane Key had a hell of a season last year, as well. The top 2 wide receivers on that team were true freshmen last year. They can only get better. You couple that, with a Devin Leary, and I think you're going to have an explosive team. Brown is explosive. I mean, the things that he was able to do as a true freshman at Kentucky last year, playing against the SEC competition, was just truly amazing. So to see him, Dane Key as well, and their third wide receiver, I can never. He's a senior this year.
Robinson.
Is Robinson?
Tavion
Robinson.
There he is.
Yeah.
That's it. So Tavion Robinson, he's back too as well. So to have the continuity there at the wide receiver position, and I think you couple that with a guy like Devin Leary, who did some great things at NC State 2 years ago, I think they're going to be set up to do pretty damn well this year to start the season off with. But going into Vanderbilt, I think this is a game where this offensive line takes control. I think Ray Davis does his thing this game, a little payback to his old school. I think they pummel Vanderbilt. I don't even think it's close. I think they pummel them. Chris, what about you, man?
Man, I'm not gonna lie. I know Leary and all the rest of that. I think that's I'll be honest with you. I think it's a close game, and I think Kentucky pulls it out. I think it's surprisingly close.
Okay.
I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. I know that we kid all the time or whatnot, but I kind of have a little bit of faith, a little bit of belief in what that new coach down there is building at Vanderbilt. I'm not saying he's building a championship caliber team in the SEC, but I definitely like the juice that he has. He's giving that program some juice, so I'm excited to see what they could do in year 2. I know they lost. I think they had some key losses or whatnot, but at the same time, I think that it'll be a surprisingly close game. But I'll give it to Kentucky.
Cool. So I think everybody has Kentucky over Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
All right.
I want to make one comment on this though.
Yeah.
Just to be fair, I do have Kentucky winning this football game, but I feel like we'd be remiss if we didn't mention that Vanderbilt beat Kentucky last year at Kentucky, right? 24-21. Now, obviously the Ray Davis situation factors into this, and some of the new faces that we've already mentioned, and kind of the momentum that Kentucky should be coming into this game. But coming off of Ball State, Eastern Kentucky, Akron, I know theoretically we look at Vanderbilt historically competition-wise as this one should be something where you handle your business, you go 4-0, but this is the team that beat you last year. And it is considered a rivalry game in their area, and we saw that last year. So something to be mindful of. I think Kentucky pulls it out, but I would not be surprised if this is a field goal game again like it was last season.
Cool.
Yeah, I think one of the only reasons because you're 100% right. I mean, Vanderbilt snuck up on them and got them last year. And I think the only reason why I feel decently confident in Kentucky revenging that game is Ray Davis jumping from Vanderbilt to Kentucky, because he had a monster game for the Commodores last year. But Chris, I give you, I kid about it, but I do agree with you. I am interested in the future of Vanderbilt, and I would like them to continue building in a positive direction. And
Yeah.
like you said, they got him last year. So
Everything. I mean, this can be the end point. We can keep moving on, but everything that Vanderbilt did last year was a plus. There was really no minus from. There's no expectations, no stipulations on their season any year, but it was just a step in the right direction. It kind of felt like what you see with Lipo, however you say his last name, up there at Kansas. It kind of just feels like every step that they take is a step in the right direction. So you're just hoping that they give him enough time to try to establish something with that program.
Yeah, that's right. And Vanderbilt's one of those tough places, right? Because you got to be a special kind of athlete to play at Vanderbilt.
Yeah.
You got to have the academics like totally in hand at Vanderbilt. It's almost like a Stanford situation. It's just Stanford has the history, right, of being a good sports program just across the board, right? Whether it's football, whether it's basketball, baseball, softball, the whole nine. But Vanderbilt doesn't have that rich history, and that's what hurts them. But it does take a special kind of student athlete to go down there and play. But once they do get it clicking, they do get it clicking once every 6 or 7 years, and you're just like, man, like where'd that come from, right? So, but that's just when they get the players that come in and actually mature in the program, and they're there and they're juniors and seniors, and they do really well. But yeah, I'm with you, Ty. I think losing Ray Davis is going to hurt them a lot. I mean, he was 1,000-yard rusher, averaged almost 5 yards a carry last year at Vanderbilt. And now I think he's stepping into a much better situation, a better offensive line, better quarterback play too, and better skill position players to surround him that, he won't be honed in on 24/7, that each team has to stop. So I think they beat him by 2 touchdowns this year. So I think we all got Kentucky beating Vanderbilt. So yeah, let's go to the next game. This is going to be the one. I want to hear Chris's thoughts on this one first. Kentucky versus Florida. I already think I know what Chris is going to say, but let me hear Chris's take on this one.
Okay, first off, you don't know what I'm going to say, because what I am going to say is that this is a bum fight. You throw a spoon out there and see who goes for the jugular first. I am not impressed with this game at all. Steven, you missed it last week. Graham Mertz, Jack Miller, they don't move the needle. Ty, I'm going to say it again. I'm sorry for stealing your flow, but I'll say it again. They don't move the needle for anybody on this panel right now. I'm not a believer. I think they're terrible. I know I sound like Stephen A. Smith talking about Kwame Brown, but I'm just telling you now, this is terrible. I do not want to see this game, because I know this is going to be a bum fight. It's going to be a battle in the trenches, honestly. It's going to be who has the ball last, to be quite frank with you. And it's not going to be a barn burner. It's not going to be a shootout. This is going to be probably a 10-3, 10-17 type of day. And it's going to be abysmal football. That's just my opinion. But the game is at Kentucky. Just because I like Napier, I'm going to go with Napier, but it's going to be close.
Oh, okay. So you're going Florida.
Yeah.
Ty, how about you, man?
I don't even know how to respond to half of that. Look, no, this is going to be interesting. I guess I didn't realize this. Kentucky's beaten Florida 2 years in a row now.
Yes, yes.
They've beaten them 3 out of the last 5 as well. And guys, I don't know, man. Chris, as much as I agree with you that I think this is a close game, I'm going to go with Kentucky, and here's the only reason why.
Wow.
Because Kentucky's defense, well, one, it's at home,
Yep.
and 2, Kentucky's defense wasn't bad last year, and they add in former 5-star Keyshawn Silver from the transfer portal, who transferred from North Carolina there. So that should help there. And then when I just look at how Kentucky can attack offensively, I think Florida will be better, but I just think Kentucky offensively will have more ways to move the ball. Right now, I have major questions about Florida's passing game. I think they're going to have some good running backs. Etienne's little brother looks really good. I mean, he had a really good spring game, but I just don't know what's going to happen in the passing game. And because of that right now, I just think Kentucky has a bit more answers for me than does Florida.
Steven.
Florida's going to be coming in here most likely with already 2 losses if we factor in Utah and Tennessee. And I was already I got some pushback when I said that very early on this channel when I said that Billy Napier's on the hot seat. Fair or not, fair or not. When we were just talking about who was on the hot seat in the conference, this is why I was looking at Florida because I struggle to see a path for them to win 5 or 6 games this year, which means that this Kentucky game is a must-win. Will be a must-win game.
Yeah.
If you think about them, Florida being bowl eligible, and really, if you look at Kentucky, who I think we all have them 4-0 at this point, building momentum. A week before
Georgia.
having to go at Georgia, you'd like to be 5-0 before obviously the schedule gets considerably tougher. I just think that Florida, I'm going to pick Florida to win this game. And the reason being is I think this is one of those games with how difficult their schedule is. They have to beat Kentucky in this situation, or else you could be potentially looking at a 4-8, 5-7 type year if you're Billy Napier. And I think that Kentucky can. It's more of a hungrier type situation, especially with Kentucky looking at Georgia the following week.
Ooh, see, I already got Florida going 5-7 next year, so I got them getting beat by Kentucky. They had Anthony Richardson on that team last year, and he couldn't save them in the swamp. So he's not coming to their front door to even try to save them. He couldn't save them last year. We're not confident in their passing game this year. They do have good running backs, very good running backs, but I think Kentucky's going to stack up to stop the run. And I think Kentucky's offense is going to be really explosive this year. I know Chris isn't a fan of Leary. I like Leary a lot more than I like Levis. And I think Leary's going to do some great things at Kentucky. Like I said, hey, this is a guy who was at NC State, went 9-3 as a starter, 3,200 yards passing, 32 touchdowns, 5 picks. He can sling the ball, man. 65%, 68%, when it comes to actual completion percentage. He can throw this rock, and he has weapons. I mean, his top 3 receivers are coming back. I love Brown. Look, I think they're going to beat Florida. It's in Kentucky, too. I do get you, though, Steven, with this being like a trap game. Like they can come in at 4-0, looking to Georgia. It could be a primetime game, a 5-0 team against another 5-0 team. People not expecting Kentucky to have 5 wins by that point because they're just not used to Kentucky football.
I think Florida's going to be very desperate. Comes September 30th already.
You make a really good point about the state of Florida, and I remember whenever you said that, I can't deny. Look, Florida fans, it's not a patient program because they've known success, and you make a good point, man. If they come in here, Georgia the next week, easy to overlook it, and a desperate Florida team, that's a really good point. I didn't even think of that.
That's a recipe for disaster, but I still got Kentucky winning this game. I think they have too much firepower on the offense side of the ball, and I also think that their defense is going to be able to, stand pat. They held, Florida last year to 16 points, man. And go ahead.
Nick, I just wanted to butt in and say, to me, I'm gonna go ahead and make the comparison. I think Kentucky has always been an Iowa State of the SEC, in my opinion. I think they are a team that will put up some very gaudy numbers, be a very physical team, be very disciplined as well. But at the same time, I don't know. They've done this the past couple of years where they pop up and they're either 5-0 or 4-1, something like that, going into a really big game like Georgia or something in the middle of the season, and then they get the clamps put on them, right? And you're just like, I don't know what else to tell you. I don't know. Something's telling me in my gut that Napier is going to figure something out. I think that obviously you could group us in there with these coaches as well, but I think, guys like BV, Crystal Ball, and I think Napier, they're good coaches at the end of the day. No matter what happened last year, they're good coaches. They're damn good coaches. I think they're going to figure it out this year. I definitely disagree with you with the 5-7. I don't believe that they're going to, go out there and compete for an SEC championship, but I definitely think they'll be better than 5-7. I kind of give them the edge in this game. I think they'll be able to match that. I think this year you kind of the pressure's a little bit off, especially with Richardson being gone. I mean, Richardson was really good, but Richardson was really inconsistent as well. I think that now you kind of have. I don't necessarily think that you have that much of a project at quarterback, but you just don't have much at quarterback. That's just my
Chris, I'm not. I don't think what you're saying is wrong,
Mhm.
but I think that you're looking at it from a practical standpoint. I agree with you about Billy Napier. I do think he's a good football coach. I've
Yeah.
seen, the work he's done as a coordinator and as he built up, Lafayette and everything. And I just don't see, and Ty mentioned it earlier, the patience with that Florida fan base is different.
Yeah.
They're not going to look at it like, oh, well, we're moving. Like, they're looking at Anthony Richardson already going top 5 in the draft, and they went 6 and 7 last year.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, why didn't we win more games? And then now they're going to look at this and say, well, we've had an embarrassing situation happen with NIL and some of these quarterbacks. Now we don't, we're unsure about our offense. And we're coming into this game with probably a win. I'm just saying, hypothetically,
Uh-huh.
they lose to Utah, they lose to Tennessee. They're going to be in here with wins over McNeese State and Charlotte. Okay, so they could be potentially 0-3
Yeah.
against D1 teams potentially. I don't care how you feel about Billy Napier at that point. Florida fans are going nuclear.
There's no
I
arguing.
mean, hey,
That.
look. At the end of the day, I can't even argue with Steven. You know, I love arguing with Nick and Steven, but I can't simply because I've been in those Florida spaces. I know what a Florida, a Miami, a Florida State. I know what those Twitter spaces are like. I remember one time I got a request to speak, and I was like, "Hell no!" I clicked off and went to there. I was like, "There's no way. There's no way. I have nothing to offer y'all."
You know what though? One thing I do want to piggyback on what you said, Chris, is that um, they start off fast, mini Kentucky. So last year, look, I think you're right on that. They started off 4-0 last year, and then they finished the season. What was it, 7-5 last year, or actually 7-6. But then the previous year, I mean, I think they went 10-3 the previous year, right? So I'm just not a fan of Will Levis.
Yeah.
I think Leary is going to be a better quarterback than him. That's just my opinion. I think he's going to be able to come in here and do some really good things here at Kentucky. I want to like Florida. I do. I like Napier. I mean, he is a damn good coach, and he seems like he's just a good person too.
I
But
agree.
but Steven can kind of relate to me when I say that. Not to say that these two guys are equal on the coaching pecking order, but we've seen what Napier did at a lesser level, at a group of 5 level, and it kind of reminds me of what we saw Charlie Strong do at a group of 5 level. And these are likable guys, and they come to coach big schools, and everybody loved Charlie. Nobody wanted to see Charlie Strong go. We loved him, right? He was just a good guy. Seemed like a good human being. But Texas fans, Florida fans, fans that are used to having some kind of history in their program, like you say, Steven, they're not patient. They're not patient. And if they come out here and they start 2-2 and then go against Kentucky and be 2-3, and then the wheels start to fall off, Napier ain't making it. He's just not gonna make it. And I feel bad for him, but I really don't feel bad for Millionaire. But yeah,
He's gonna need some luck. I mean,
yeah, he's gonna need some luck.
yeah, because Charlie had horrible luck at the beginning, and then that momentum really cycled us into oblivion. But we don't need to rehash that. I do want to address FT's comment though.
Which one?
He said, "I mean to be fair, Stephen. We've been like the same as Florida in the past, but we're giving Sark a lot more credit this time around." Okay, so Sark is a year ahead of where Napier is, right? Because Sark had that 5-7 year, and then obviously won 8 games last year. But if we look at Sark, one of the big differences I have there is Sark in year 2 went and beat the hell out of his arch rival 49-0 and dealt with some adversity and actually put some skin on the wall to show growth. And I think coming into year 2 at Texas, we all felt like we would be better than the 5-17.
Nobody in Florida thinks they're going to be better.
I don't know if Florida thinks they're going to be better than that 6-17 last year. That's the difference.
No fan can honestly look at their team and say minus a top 5 pick at quarterback that could do everything and could do no harm and no wrong, that we're going to actually be better. Unless Florida simplifies the game, has a more balanced offense, and doesn't put their entire offensive scheme into one player.
True. And they're ahead of schedule on defense too. If they're because they have some guys on defense, but if they're ahead, then yeah, they can flip games around. I believe that as well.
And Steven, just adding on to your point, Sark also was playing Bama very well. I mean, that game was very close. We know what Ewers did. We know what happened after that. I mean, Texas looked every bit the part against the Crimson Tide. And so, yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I think the other thing is, guys, whenever we talk about the Florida outlook this year, we have to remember a lot of the times whenever these coaches come in, they do their rebuilds in year 1 where you have that mass exodus. That happened in year 2 with Florida, right? Like they had their mass exodus going into this year. So Steven, Nick, you said, I don't know that Florida's going to be a better team. And that really worries me because not only did they lose a first-round draft pick, that offensive line isn't there anymore. Yeah, and it wasn't a stellar offensive line with Anthony Richardson. And now I have questions about your quarterbacks. I don't have questions about your running back talent. But if you don't have adequate offensive line play, that offensive style, I don't know. I just have questions. I hope they get it. But
yeah, and they lost their best offensive lineman to the draft, also in the second round this year. But one thing that Florida did do, they did stack up on a lot of offensive line talent here. However, it's all guards. They don't have they didn't attack the tackle position in the portal like they did the guard position. And that's one thing that I think that is going to hurt them as well.
If they make it to a bowl game, Billy Napier coached his ass off.
Exactly. I got them going 5-7. So
we can leave it at. We can go on to Georgia. But Florida fans need to hear that though. If they go get bowl eligible this year and they get to that point where they feel like they have momentum going into year 3, they need to understand how difficult a job it was to navigate that schedule that Billy Napier did with his staff if that becomes the outcome.
Exactly. Chris, you all right, man?
I'm good, bro. I'm definitely fine.
Frightening truth is like, come on, man. What's up with Chris, man? Like
everybody gets one. Everybody gets one. We'll let it slide for now. We'll let it slide for now. Trust me. I got some things I want to talk about. So let's hurry up with these with these Kentucky Wildcats.
All right. So I got them going 5-0 right now. Ty has them 5-0. Steven and Chris have them 4-1 right now. All right, next game is against Georgia. I think we're all underneath the consensus that Georgia's going to win this game.
No question. The
question is, how close is this game going to be? Or how not close is this game going to be?
No, the real question, I'm sorry, Nick, not to steal.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The real question to me is can Kentucky generate offense? That was really one of the main things that kept them out of the game last year was the fact that, everybody's trying to hype this game up, and Ty, I know me and Ty talked about it a lot because we would on his show. Where the hell are they going to score? How are they going to keep up with this offense? It wasn't just the weapons. No, everybody understands. In my practice, I always tell clients, "Hey, look, let's focus on the solution, not the problem." Right? We know what the problem is. The problem is Bowers. The problem is that plethora of running backs that they have. The problems is the wide receiver who always finds himself open somehow. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So the thing is, what the problem is, but what's the solution? You got to score. you got to be able to keep drives alive and sustain drives to keep their offense off the field and to put yourself in a good position to win. And you can't go out there and just plan on kicking field goals with them. They'll do that with you for maybe a quarter and a half, and then you're done. But last year they couldn't do anything. They would maybe get one first down once every two drives. I mean, once every three drives, and you're just sitting there like, man, Will Levis, none of them, they have no answer, no counter for what this defense is throwing at them. So my thing is that if you guys believe that much in Leary, is he the difference maker? Because to me, I think that going into Georgia, I'm not going to say that they can't be beat. They could be beat at Georgia. We've seen it before, but like Jake Fromm when they've had just as much talent as they have on the field now. But my problem with Kentucky is just where is the offense going to be generating whenever you get into the get to facing the better SEC teams, I guess.
I wanna counter you on one thing on that, Chris. Last year was a close game. Last year, Kentucky Georgia was 16-6 last year. If I'd have told anybody, hey man, Kentucky's going to lose to Georgia in 2022 with that stacked team they have and that stacked roster, and they're only going to lose 16-6, you're gonna be like, damn, Kentucky played their ass off.
And I get that. I mean, defensively, and that's why I didn't mention anything. Defensively, they're going to be fine. Mark Stoops is going to always have a great game plan going into a game defensively. But my problem is just
on the offensive side of the ball. I got
offensive side of the ball. You said 6 points, so I mean,
but
it may miss just by 10 points, but it felt like it was more because they couldn't sustain drives.
But their key players, meaning their key skill position players last year, probably their two best skill position players last year, were true freshmen. They're true freshmen who, in game 4, well, I'm sorry, not game 4. It was towards the end of the season, but they got a taste of big boy ball going against the defending national champions, and they got punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
Right. And so now, Georgia always has talent, right? They got talent stacked up for days, but these guys were high 4-star guys who got punched in the mouth, and now they see what it's like. These guys are going to mature, right? And I got a feeling that they're going to be ready to play. I like Leary a lot better than Levis. I've been on record saying that for the whole season. Chris laughs at me all the time. He says he's another guy. But I've seen Leary do things at another school we didn't see Levis doing. I didn't even see what Levis – I wasn't too impressed with Levis in 2021, let alone 2022. So I think Leary's going to be a better quarterback. I think those skill position players are going to be better this year as well. And like Ty said, I am very intrigued with what Ray Davis brings to the game here as well. Their offensive line is beefed up. Are they beefed up enough to take care of Georgia's defensive line? No, they're not. But I got Georgia winning the game, but I don't think it's going to be a runaway win like we would think Georgia would do against I don't know. Who did Georgia run against last year? Yeah, TCU.
That was abysmal.
Yeah. So yeah, I got Georgia winning, but I don't think it's going to be a blowout like some may think.
Yeah, the way I look at it, Chris, to answer your question, Barian Brown has got the ability to stretch the field. I mean, he's a burner, man, and he is dangerous in the return game. He's going to be a really fun prospect for college football fans to watch because he's got a deep skill set. My biggest thing is I just don't think Kentucky has the type of offense that you really want to have when you're going up against Georgia, because I think they're going to have a balanced approach. And I don't know, guys. I think you're going to have a real hard time if you're like pro style balanced going up against that Georgia defense, because I think they're all too happy to repeat last year and be like, okay, we'll have it be 16-6, right? And like, we're going to play slow control ball and that's our game. Yeah. Georgia's all too happy to do that. That's why offensive coordinators like a Steve Sarkisian, guys who like to push the ball and get creative, those are the type of offenses that can give Georgia problems. I just don't think Kentucky's calling that type of offense.
Got you. Steven, how about you, man?
Yeah, so I think Georgia's going to cover in this game, and I actually think it has the potential to be a blowout. The reason being, last year's game, and you're right, they played them real tight, 16-6. Kentucky's defense was really, really good. I thought Stetson Bennett was probably his worst game that I saw him play last year. As Georgia just didn't seem to be locked in that day. Not to make excuses or anything like that for their offense, but they didn't perform up to standard. And then they had a situation where they were actually gonna shut out Kentucky. I don't know if anybody remembers this, but Kentucky had the ball like the 1 yard line and completed. I think it was actually Barian Brown that caught one on Ringo for a big play that led to them getting points. Or else that game would have been 16-0 or 19-0. I think Georgia was actually trying to get a safety. But I just think at Georgia, Georgia's probably going to be feeling decent coming off of the Auburn game the week before. I think they'll have, it's earlier in the season to where they don't have that aspect where Kirby had to fight it off a little bit last year at times where maybe the kids get a little bored. I don't think you'll see that, especially with newer starters in this group and a lot of guys trying to prove themselves, especially a younger quarterback. I think Georgia might turn up on Kentucky in this game. And that has nothing to do, no disrespect to Coach Cohen, who's in there now, and Devin Leary. I know, Nino, you made a good point. This is a showcase game. And, you saw what the money that CJ Stroud was able to make with his performance against Georgia, right? And if you come out there and you look fearless and you move the football against a defense like this, it goes a long way in the NFL's eyes. And I think with Will Levis in that pro-style system, to what Ty was speaking on, he seemed to also be afraid to pull the trigger at certain times against Georgia and would take a 5-yard check down, and Georgia rallies and tackles, and the field felt small. To another point that the Georgia Tech quarterback made last year. I think you saw that with Will Levis. I think Devin Leary is actually going to come out there and try to take some chances, knowing it's a showcase game. But I also think that plays into Georgia's hands, and they try to cover this thing because they definitely did not cover last year, and it pissed me off. So,
somebody had some money on the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, man. I think everybody thinks Georgia's going to win this game. It's just a matter of how much do they win by, right? So, I could be swayed on that too. Georgia's the defending champion. A lot of folks don't think Georgia's going to kind of repeat what they did last year as good as they did because we don't even know who their starting quarterback's going to be. But Georgia's Georgia, right? I mean, they're gonna turn up this year. So yeah, we got Georgia winning that game. I think me and Ty got it 5-2 now, and I think Steven and Chris got it 4-3 now when it comes to Kentucky's record here.
4-2, right?
4-2. I got them 5-2. I think.
No, that's the first loss. You and
that'd be the first
I'm
loss.
sorry. I'm sorry.
You're right. You're right. We'd have them 4-2.
You're right. 5-1. All right, next game. This one's going to be very interesting. This is at Kentucky, and this is Kentucky versus Missouri. Missouri played everybody pretty much tough last year with the exception of Tennessee, and I think Tennessee mollywopped them last year, right? It's like 60-something to 20-something. Tennessee and Kansas State kind of mollywopped them last year, but they played everybody else kind of tight last year. Ty, I'll let you start off this one, man. Who do you think is going to win this game against Missouri and Kentucky?
I think because it's at Kentucky, they have a good chance at winning it. The problem is, guys, as I look down, and I'm already like at a high win total for Kentucky, and that just doesn't sit right in my bones. Right? Something is instantly like my spider senses are going off, saying like you're making. But at the same time, this is another one of those coin flip games. We talked about this last week whenever we talked about South Carolina, where I actually picked Missouri to upset South Carolina in that game. But I said, like, if we were to ever revisit it, that would be the game I'd be the most easily swayed in South Carolina's favor. This is kind of the same thing. I think this is a real toss-up. You pointed it out. They played everybody close last year. This was a 4-point game last year. The thing I have problems with Missouri against Kentucky is that I think Kentucky's offense may be better because even though they lost to Cavassier Smoke, they got a 1,000-yard running back. They also got another running back out the transfer portal. I can't say his name, but he is talented, bigger body guy. And then, Steven, you made the point perfectly. Devin Leary, I don't think, is going to have the hesitation Will Levis has. And when you have a Barry and Brown on the outside and the other wide receiver, I think that bodes well. I think Kentucky actually pulls this game out, and I think because it's home, that's why I'm giving it to them.
Steven.
So Missouri has only beaten Kentucky once since 2015. They've
I did not
they've
know
been
that.
close games. They've been close games, but the only win, I believe, the only win that Missouri had was in 2020 over Kentucky. So the series has been very, very heavily in favor of Kentucky. Um, I'm struggling with this game because this is a game where if Kentucky wins, they clearly, I think, that would already put them at 5 wins. And as you start to see some of the teams at the bottom of the schedule, I have losses there. I think this is actually a must-win spot for Kentucky if we're talking about betting the over on 6.5 wins, considering the opponents that are after that bye week.
Yeah.
But with Coach Drinkowitz and those guys over there at Missouri, they got some guys that can make some plays. I just think Kentucky's defense is probably a little bit better in terms of that matchup. So I'm going to actually go Kentucky again to continue their little win streak that they have over Missouri.
Ooh, Chris, how about you?
If this game would have been in Missouri, I would have picked Mizzou. I think that Kentucky gets it done at the end of the day. The only thing that I would say is, ladies and gentlemen, be on the lookout for that wide receiver room up there at Missouri. I'm not saying that they have a bunch of hogs, but hey, Burden and
No, they're good.
yeah, I mean Burden. Hey, Burden is a dude. I think if Theo Weiss has his mind all right and he's healthy, I think he can really really be a threat with them as well if they're going to use him the way that I guess he's thinking that they're going to use him. So I'm a little bit excited about this Missouri team, not just because of what they were able to do against Georgia last year, but simply because I just think that they play solid football. I'm going to give them that, but it's just that they're inconsistent as well. But playing at Kentucky, I don't know. I think it just depends, but I'll lean more towards Kentucky since they're playing at home. I think at the end of the day, defense gets some key stops, and they probably win that game probably by 10 or at least.
Yeah. Hey guys, who is the starting quarterback for? I think next year for the football team for Missouri. Who's the starting quarterback, guys?
Isn't it Brady Cook?
Is Cook still the guy?
I think he's still there.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah, not and we got to remember Dominic Lovett isn't there anymore either. He's at
that's
Georgia
true.
now.
My thing with Cook, I think last year Missouri scored 21 points against Power 5 competition 3 times
Ooh,
last year.
ooh,
You
that's
know?
not good. that's that
And
Iowa offense, huh?
yeah, but one of those games that they scored 21 points or more was in the 66-24 loss to Tennessee. And also a 26-22 loss to Georgia, which was a really good game. Georgia pulled it out at the end, which was a hell of a game. Georgia came in like that fourth quarter, and I think they won the game in like the last 2 or 3 minutes of the game, right? Yeah, they scored 21 points or more 3 times last year against Power 5 competition. So I don't know where they're going to manufacture the offense, to be honest with you folks. I got a feeling that they're going to get beat. It's at Kentucky. I think Kentucky's going to put it on them this year. And I'm with Chris on this. I think it's going to be a 10-point game. So I think we all got it. Oh, Ty, how about you? You already said it, right?
Yeah, I got Kentucky in this one.
Yeah. All right. So we all got Kentucky winning this one. Sweet. So me and Ty got him at 6-1.
6-1.
Steven and
I'm
Chris
at
got him
5
at
and 2.
all
It
right,
just
5
feels
and 2.
wrong.
It does, but looking at the front half of the schedule,
Favorable.
I think they got 4 baked-in wins already. I mean, off the top, they got 4 baked-in wins already, and then it's just a matter of what you think about Florida and Missouri. All right?
And yeah, because you can see as you look at after the bye, you can see why the total's at 6.5.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, let's just be real here, right?
Yeah,
Like,
their buy is crucial.
So
look at this after the bye.
after I typed in the schedule, for whatever reason, I don't know, as we started talking, my mind blanked on what the rest of the schedule was, and I was just looking at the first few teams. And then I think Chris was like, "What's their over under?" And someone said 6.5, and in my mind, I was like, "How the hell is it 6.5 when it's this easy?" And I
Yeah.
looked down and
It's
I saw
that
the
back
back
half.
half. I was
It's
like,
that
"Oh yeah,
back
that's
half.
how."
Go ahead and
That's how-
scroll down, man.
Yeah, it's that back half. I didn't scroll down. I'm scroll down, ain't I? Oh, my bad. Choo, 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 choo. Okay, we're on the bye week.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right,
not
leave it.
back half.
Not good.
Yeah. This is the problem.
Yeah, not good.
You know, well, okay, let's get into the Tennessee game. All right.
Yeah.
I think we understand. If
Lost.
Tennessee comes out and does their thing, Tennessee's whooping that ass. Okay.
I mean, that's not even. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. 'Cause, I don't want to waste time.
I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care what field it's on. It's in Kentucky. I don't give a shit. Tennessee's whooping that ass. Mississippi State. This is the game. Kentucky has an
Mississippi State.
opportunity to put in some work against Mississippi State. Steven, I'll let you start off on this one, man.
So I actually think this is going to be a really difficult game for Kentucky. We know the emotions that Mississippi State's going to play with this season for Coach Leach, and just looking at Will Rogers and that crew still there offensively. I don't know what Mississippi will be early in the season offensively and what that identity is going to be. I do think that they'll be a little bit more solidified as what they want to do by November.
Mm-hmm.
And I look at playing in Starkville, November timeframe, coming off of what could be an ass whooping against Tennessee, and then you're sandwiched in between Bama. I could see that being a struggle for Kentucky, and we also got to factor this in. What does the depth of your football team look like? Because that's the one thing about SEC football is when I say this all the time. We saw this even with Texas playing Alabama. When you go to war, you're going to lose people when you play in these big games. And so at some point, while I think we like a lot of the front end talent that Kentucky has, I don't know what that depth looks like.
Yeah.
Once guys start to go down and we start to get into months like November, this is where stuff gets set apart with teams like Alabama, with teams like Tennessee, with teams like Georgia, where they can go to war and they can lose 2 or 3 guys. But if you lose 2 or 3 guys, it hurts you different. Yeah. And so that's where I think that the fall off sadly could happen for Kentucky, and they start to kind of go on a little downfall. So I got them losing to Mississippi and Starkville.
Ooh, Chris, how about you, man?
I have them losing in Starkville as well, simply because it's just a Kentucky thing to do. I don't know, man. It just something just does not sit right with me with that game. I don't know. I think the kind of the well runs dry. Also, I'd like to jump back up there in Tennessee and say the only thing that scares me with Tennessee is who is the quarterback by that time, because as we all know, it's not like I'm hiding it. Not a big fan of Joe Milton. Just gonna be honest with you from the get go. I don't care if he goes out there and has a great season. Still not a fan. I think that we've seen that story a couple of times how it played out. I thought he would be the guy at Michigan. Simply because, I mean, like I said, all the tools are there, all the talent is there. It's just that, it kind of rubs me the wrong way. I don't like doing all the pre-promo and all the rest of that stuff. Like get on the field, let's get to it. Be a quarterback, go and do that, because you've had that chance, that opportunity plenty of times, and now you're kind of enjoying this limelight. Clemson game is one game, but we've seen other flashes, but I just want to know who's going to be the quarterback. And I'm not saying that Nico is not going to go out there and do any better than him, but I'm just saying that, I think that's something to keep an eye on. But as far as that game against Mississippi State, yeah, I'm giving that to the Bulldogs.
I want to add one quick point before Ty and Nino go. The matchup right now is 25-25 between Mississippi and Kentucky. However, Kentucky has not won in Starkville since 2006. Just FYI.
Oh wow,
man, Ty, what you got, man?
First, where are you pulling these stats from? They're amazing.
Winsipedia, baby.
Winsipedia?
Winsipedia.
It's so good. I could
I
just
know.
sit here and listen to them all
I
night.
know.
They're so cool. I gotta highlight one thing though, because I love this quote. When you go to war, you're gonna lose people, right?
Yeah.
That resonated with me, Stephen, because I think that's a perfect summary for where we are in the season for Kentucky. They're building something, but is the depth there? And conversely, when I look at Mississippi State, guys, we talked about this before, they're going to have a total change in philosophy in this team. They went from being led by legendary coach Mike Leach to now a defensive-minded head coach, right? So it's going to be a bit of a change. Luckily for Mississippi State, not only do you get Kentucky at home, you get Kentucky later in the season. So you have time to get acclimated. And Will Rogers is a seasoned quarterback in the SEC at this point. He's thrown for a lot of yards, and he has shown he can throw.
11,000.
Yeah,
He has that many?
Yes, he
Wow.
is sneaky good. He's someone I'm always shocked. I am, and I'm not. People don't talk about him because Mike Leach was the offensive coordinator, and people expect any quarterback under Mike Leach to put up gaudy numbers, which fair enough. But like, he's really good. He's a really good quarterback, man. Yeah, guys, I don't have much else to add. I have Mississippi State winning this game.
Ooh. You know, I think I'm gonna join the party on this one. I was thinking, you know, just for all the reasons that you guys said. At first, I was like, you know, you got Kevin Barbie, brand new system, very balanced system. I don't think Mississippi State has the depth, you know, as Stephen was talking about with Kentucky, though. But I don't think they have the personnel yet to run Barbie's offense. And so I think later on in the season, I don't think they're going to have the depth that's necessary to completely run his offense at Mississippi State. However, they are playing at home. Do I trust Will Rogers more in Mississippi State than I do Devin Leary? Yes. I think by that point in the season, what's this game? 9 or 10? By this point in the season, I think Barbie would have reconfigured his offense to match the personnel he has, because he does like to run a very balanced offense, and he's going to find a way to run the ball. And if he is able to do that, I think Mississippi State squeaks this one out by about a field goal. So yeah, I'm with you guys on this one. Man, we all agreed on Mississippi State.
So, I think Chris and I are at 5-3 at this point.
Yeah, and we're at 6-2.
Yep.
No, 6-3 because we got to lose to
6-3,
Tennessee.
yeah, 6-3.
Yeah.
6-3.
So we're
Yeah, and you guys are 5-4.
5-4.
5-4.
Okay.
All right, so
Got it.
6-3, 5-4.
It's not getting much better either.
Not get much better because the next game is against the Crimson Tide of Alabama. I don't care if it's in Kentucky. I don't care if it's in Dentucky, Pentucky, Centucky. Tied by 3 touchdowns.
Roll damn Tide, Paul.
It is what it is. I don't care who they got behind center. It don't matter. All right? It could be Milroe. It could be the guy from Notre Dame. It could be Simpson. It doesn't matter. Alabama's going to win that game.
Yeah, look, Bama has a lot to prove this year, but I think they're excited to go prove it, and I'm really excited to go see it. There's a lot of new on the team, but I mean, look, I just don't see how Kentucky pulls this game off absent a massive collapse from to the proportions we haven't seen in quite some time. Yeah, it is what it is. Roll damn Tide, Paul.
My only thing, Ty, is I love Kentucky's defense, right?
I agree with you there.
They got a good defense. This could be kind of reminiscent of what happened last year against A&M.
I think that's fair.
And it was a close game, even though Bama pulled the game out. Milroe, had that game in the ages there in the fourth quarter to kind of pull it out, right? But it could be a very close game. I don't see it happening. I still think Bama pulls this thing out by 2 or 3 touchdowns.
The last thing I'll say is I do agree with you, and I think Tommy Rees is a little bit better fitted for that heavier run style where if we get into a grinding Bill O'Brien would go away from the run
He would, yeah.
a lot, and I just don't think Tommy Rees. So that might help Bama if it gets into that close game where they'll try and play the control game. And let's be honest, I think that's going to be better for the Tide this year is relying on more of a power offense.
Exactly. Chris, Steven, you guys got anything to say about that one?
I'll keep it short.
Well, let me go, Steven. At least they're not playing. First off, I just want to tell Ty, hey, look,
that's an abomination.
Go War Eagle.
They're confused. They don't even know what they are. Are they War Eagle? Are they? Do they?
Can this guy stop, please? Mute his mic.
You're right.
They had to play some team out of Alabama. At least they didn't play the best team out of Alabama. That's all I have to say. Steven, thank you. You can go ahead.
I'll keep it short. I think Alabama's going to whoop that ass in this game, even at Kentucky. Again, just the point about depth, the point I made about just when you play these level of teams, these caliber of teams, I just don't see Kentucky having the horses at that point in the season offensively to be able to be competitive for 4 quarters. So I have Alabama winning that game.
Can you say something mean about Auburn for me?
I think Auburn's going to get their ass whooped by Georgia earlier in the year, and they're probably going to start 2 or 3 different guys at quarterback this year. So,
see, nobody can say I said it because I'm hating now.
All right, so Ty, we got him 6-4. I think Chris and Steven got him at 5-5. All right, so look, hey, it's coming back to that 6.5, spread. Next, folks, over on look, man, South Carolina.
This is a toss-up.
This is a toss-up. I'm gonna give this to you, Chris, because your boy is starting quarterback there.
And if I may, remember last week we did South Carolina. We all had South Carolina winning this game against Kentucky. Yeah. So, Chris.
It's hard because now I'm like second guessing myself because I'm like, there's no way Kentucky loses 5 games or 4 games in a row in the season. But
say that.
Oh man,
I'm just gonna go ahead. Don't even ask me about Louisville. I got them going 6-6 this year. I think that's a loss, and I say they re-up against Louisville, their rivals, like they always do. Even though it's at Louisville, I think they get the win 6-6. That's all I got for you. I can't do anything better.
Well, hold on. So you're saying South Carolina wins?
Talk about South Carolina.
I know. I'm just saying, man. I'm just wrapping it up. Look, Louisville. I can't. I mean, this is bad. Like, I don't know.
Steven, how about you, man?
All right. This is a game I really wrestle with. To Chris's point, though, about that tough slate, I do think that this is a type of game for Kentucky where it's kind of light at the end of the tunnel with some of those matchups. And I've wrestled. I do think that at Mississippi State and at South Carolina, Kentucky will win one of those games. And I could be wrong here, and it could end up being Mississippi State and they lose the South Carolina game. I'm actually going to pick them to beat South Carolina at South Carolina. I think South Carolina is going to be in a position where they're going to feel really, really good about how to finish their season because I believe after a October trip to College Station, they do not leave South Carolina again.
Yep,
I think the entire month of November they play in Columbia. And so, while it feels good to end the season that way, to have all those home games at the back end, you still got to live up to the standard and play well, especially a division game. In a game in which it's been a little back and forth between Kentucky and South Carolina, I'm actually going to pick Kentucky to pull off the upset on the road against South Carolina. Devin Leary going back to that Carolina area and having one time for the one time over there. I know they're not SEC, ACC country, but close enough. A lot of familiar faces in that game. I think that's going to be – I actually think that's going to be an awesome football game. I think that's a really good matchup. But I have Kentucky pulling that off, knowing that they're going to be fighting to be bowl eligible as well. So I think that's where they break through.
All right, you got to make 6-5 right now. How about you, Ty?
Nick, Steven and I all have Kentucky at 6-5 right now. I have South Carolina losing this game, though I will admit that was a compelling argument. And I'm just keeping the law because I said South Carolina would. Or I'm sorry, I have South Carolina winning this game.
Same here.
I'm sorry. I confused myself. Yeah, that was a very compelling argument, though. This is a toss-up. This is going to be a really, really underrated game. This is one I think people should circle.
And tune into on this one.
Yeah, but I have South Carolina pulling it out.
Look, I got South Carolina winning this game too, and for the same reasons that we said about the depth, right? The depth of each team. Kentucky's is coming off a hell of a onslaught of a schedule here, right? You see Tennessee at Mississippi State, Alabama, and then South Carolina. So you got 3 games where you're going to get your ass whooped. South Carolina's coming off of, if I'm not mistaken, they're coming off of Jacksonville
Vanderbilt
State and Vanderbilt. Those are going to be, let's be honest, if South Carolina does what they're supposed to do, I'm not going to say warm-up games, but they should win those games.
Yeah, they should be the fresher team, no doubt about it.
Yeah, so they should be the fresher team. It's at South Carolina too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. It's at South Carolina. They're going to be the fresher team. I think South Carolina pulls it off just for that reason. Guys will be a little bit, healthier. Their guys won't be beat up by Tennessee and Bama and also going to Mississippi State. And we all know South Carolina's defense is something stupid. I mean, when he puts the pressure on you, his defenses are really, really good. So, yeah, I got the fresher team winning that game. I got South Carolina winning that game. And, yeah, we got 6-5 across the board now, right?
6-5, and then there's Chris with 5-6.
All right. Last game, folks. Louisville. Ty, what you thinking, man?
This one I struggle with. Look, Kentucky won the game last year, but it's in Louisville this year. These are the toss-up type games. Vegas is really high on Louisville this year. Mm-hmm. They like the Cardinals. I have my questions about Louisville. That being said, though, I'm going to pick Kentucky to win this game just because they beat them last year. I think it was 13-26. And I hate to beat a dead horse. I think their defense is going to be just about as good. Yep. I think their offense could be better and have a little bit more balance to it. So I'm going to take Kentucky to win this game.
Yeah, they won 26-13 last year. Steven?
I got Kentucky winning this game as well, which would actually put them for me at 7-5. So it sounds like I'd be taking the over there. Kentucky's won the last 4 against Louisville. This is the first year of Jeff Brom, and I know Louisville had a very exciting recruiting class come in. So they I think that's part of the reason, Ty. Maybe there's some optimism there with how those guys will factor in into that roster. But I thought Malik Cunningham was one of the more underrated guys last year, and for Louisville and college and really in college football. And Kentucky still handled their business against them, and I think that's just They just have a little bit of a run right now in that rivalry. And it seems to me this rivalry runs interesting where teams kind of get off 4 or 5 wins on each other at a time as it goes back and forth. So I'm going to go with Kentucky, and I have them finishing out 7-5.
All right, Chris, how about you?
I just told you, man. I got them. I think I'm going to say 6-6. I believe that they'll. Ty, am I correct on that?
But who do you have? What do you have? Because I didn't catch who you had winning this game. It depends.
Kentucky.
You have Kentucky. So yeah, you're at 6-6.
Yeah. I mean, it's say less. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Louisville had a good recruiting class. Didn't Louisville lose their coach? You guys should say that.
Yeah. So Satterfield's out. So it's Jeff Brom now.
Wow. Which is good because Jeff Brom's a really good coach. I like Jeff Brom, but I don't like the team. I think he needs a year to kind of get some of his guys in there. Obviously, he has talent there, but so yeah. I mean, I don't know. They're a wild card to me. I don't know what they have. I know that I'll probably be watching them on ESPN at some random time on a Monday or something like that during the first game of the season. So it is what it is.
I got Kentucky winning this game. Louisville hasn't beat Kentucky since Lamar Jackson left. That kind of sums it up.
Damn.
So I don't think it stops. I don't think it stops this year.
And I don't think we need to cover the SEC championship the following week because
No, it's not.
they ain't gonna be there.
Yeah, so I got them over. I got them 7 wins. I think they handle business. It is what it is. Like I said, I think the team's gonna be a little bit more mature. They got playmakers across the board. They were freshmen last year. These guys are grown up in the system now. They're sophomores. I think Brown's going to be a 3-year player. I don't see him staying more than 3 years. And I think Leary's going to play better. You know, I keep saying the same thing, but I just honestly think that their skill position players are going to show out this year. I got them winning the game. I got them going 7-5. I'm starting to think back of my Mississippi State pick. I think I penciled it in as a win earlier, but look, I'll stick with it 7-5. You know, the potential of them beating Mississippi State, you know, that could tip them to go 8-4, but we'll stick 7-5 here. 7-5.
So in that area, right, where we have them, for folks that are out here that are maybe Kentucky fans or follow this program closer than we do, because we're looking at this with the outside objective lens, I hope, right? How do they feel about that? Do you feel like, all right, you know, we went out and got Devin Leary to go 7-5. Does that feel good? You know, we're in that 8-4 kind of high end. 6-6 looks like the floor. They should not be worse than 6. With the way their September is set up.
Yeah.
Honestly, Coach Stoops, I think that the staff, the roster is good enough to where you should be able to pull out at least 2 wins out of the rest of the schedule. But how do you feel about that as a whole? Do you feel like you're progressing as a program? You feel like that's where you should be? I just wonder how they would feel after a season like this.
Yeah, that's, you know, and also, man, we got 6. You know, I feel comfortable with 6 wins, right? I mean, 6 wins off top. You know, 3 of these are coin flips, man. You know, I think Mississippi State is a coin flip game. I think South Carolina can be a coin flip game. You know, I picked South Carolina at first because I just believe more in Spencer Rattler than I do Devin Leary. I think, you know, I've said this before over the last 4 or 5 episodes in the SEC this year. I think Spencer Rattler has probably the best arm talent in the conference. And so if he can get the mental game down, I think, man, South Carolina can go really far this year. But even in saying that, I still think it's a coin flip game. You know, so there's opportunity. All this depends, all this depends on how well does Devin Leary adjust to playing at Kentucky, and can he create magic there and pull out a few wins that many think that he can't pull out in that conference in the back half of the season. And
that's also assuming he plays the whole season, because he's from a very severe injury as well.
Yeah, from that pec, you know, and it's a pec on his throwing side. So Correct. It's his right pec. He's a right-handed quarterback. So, you know, hopefully that's healed all the way. You know, and if it isn't healed all the way, then, you know, look, every one of my projections, you can throw them in the trash.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. If he goes down, yeah, it could look ugly. It could look like it did in the Iowa Bowl game, right? Where they just can't, there's nothing they can generate offensively. I will say this, though, just to answer kind of the question I threw out there earlier of how I would feel. I've always felt like if my team is projected to be in that, let's say 8-ish win territory, 6, 7, 8 wins, I just don't want to lose a game I'm not supposed to lose. Yeah. Like, I want to be able to watch a game objectively and know that if a team beat me like Alabama or Georgia or Tennessee, it's like, okay, we were outmanned. There's nothing, we didn't leave meat on the bone. We came out there, we competed. We just lost to a better team.
Yeah.
What would bother me if I was a Kentucky fan is if I drop a South Carolina or a Mississippi State, but I watched the game and I'm like, wow, for 58 minutes, I thought we were better than them.
Yeah.
Right? That's
Mhm.
that's where you start to have problems with coaches and stuff like that. So I think optics wise, and this goes for a lot of coaches in the SEC that aren't one of the top creme de la creme programs, you want to make sure you're getting the meat on the bone that you're supposed to get with the way your roster looks.
Yeah, like Ole Miss is a prime example last year. I think Ole Miss left a lot of meat in the bone last year. You know,
Yeah, they did. There was a lot of games where they were up and they controlled the game, they controlled the narrative, and then let it slip right out their hands.
Yep,
So
exactly.
um before we get up out of here, man. Let me Kentucky fans, look, I know you guys are probably at home thinking to yourself, damn, Texas fans talking to us like this. These are some of the good guys of that group. So go ahead, follow them, like them all. Like, hey, look, they're good guys. Okay. Deep down, they're good guys. Being ignorant about, college football, winners and stuff, being in the winner's circle. They're good guys at the end of the day. But, anyways, hey, before we get out of here, I got a couple things I want to talk about. First off, I cannot wait until next week. Okay, why? Because those schedules for the SEC next year in 2024 are going to be released. It's going to be bunkers. I'm really interested, not only in OU schedule because I think we've kind of seen some of the projections, but I'm definitely interested in Texas schedule. Not because I'm trying to troll, but simply because it seemed like everybody want a piece of y'all. And Texas A&M is talking all this stuff. We talked about that. And it seems like they're trying to pitch y'all against other people. It seems like y'all and LSU are tied an awful lot to each other from stuff that I've been reading. So I think it's going to be really interesting how it plays out with your schedule because your schedule is going to be more unique than OU because just in my opinion, and I'm not saying that I'm a history buff or whatever, but I feel like we maybe play a little bit more SEC teams. That's just my opinion than you guys, or at least recently, I would say. And I just feel like you guys have more of a unique chance to actually like venture out, play some newer teams than just Texas A&M and Arkansas right off the bat. I feel like you guys have some leeway to really forge some new rivalries in the SEC. So I'm definitely interested because it seems like everybody wants a piece of y'all. So I'm just
Chris, that's how it's supposed to be. Every time we've engaged with the SEC, at least of recent. So I'm gonna say, since I've been on YouTube, right? So I'm including Georgia Sugar Bowl game, LSU 2019 game, the last year's game against Bama, right? Every time we've engaged with SEC competition, granted it's a small sample size, it has been absolute fire. It's been fire for content. It has been fire for trash talk, and the games have been really good because Texas, for whatever reason, win or lose, Texas actually plays up to the opponent.
Well, you know how y'all do.
So yeah, I mean, so I totally understand why there's that anticipation when it comes to looking at Texas.
Yeah,
with wanting to match up in these games.
I just think that you guys have a real unique. You guys are going to have a more unique schedule than OU. I think for OU it's going to be. I don't know. It just feels like kind of. I wouldn't necessarily say same old, but just from my opinion, it feels like okay. Well, if they just give us Kentucky, Auburn, but then they give us, obviously they're going to give us Texas A&M, Texas, obviously. Probably Arkansas.
Arkansas.
Yeah. I mean, in Missouri, it's kind of hard because you've kind of already had those rivalries with those guys. But I feel like you guys have a better chance to have maybe a like fresher opponents to kind of build that. You get what I'm saying?
It's gonna be
I forgot Missouri. I was on YouTube when we played Missouri, and obviously Arkansas kicked our ass in Vietnam. So but all those games and all those moments have been a lot. Like they've all been. I mean, y'all seen it. They've been very emotional games. All of them.
But also, I think what people need to realize too is, I mean, Texas is a huge brand, and people say they want. No, Chris, you can laugh all you want. It's a huge brand.
We already know it's a brand.
It's a brand that also when it's on TV, it makes a lot of money regardless of what Texas is a huge school with a lot of fans, guys. So a Texas bringing a huge fan base to go play Alabama at Alabama this year. It's going to be freaking huge. A Texas versus a Georgia is going to be huge. This reminds me of boxing, right? And so, so in boxing, where you have one fan base of one demographic comes in with another fan base of one demographic, almost like the Tank Davis versus Ryan, fight, or like
Great example.
Or like Floyd versus Oscar, right? You got two different demographics. They come together and make a mega fight, right? And that's what these games are going to be, because you're going to have SEC fan bases are crazy, and especially when they have the big brands like the LSU's, the Bamas, the Georgias, the Texas A&Ms, now Texas.
Yeah.
When you bring those two big brands together, different cultures too, because Texas, as much as Texas is in the South, I'm from Louisiana. It's a big difference, all right? And so you're bringing a fan base of loyal Louisiana swamp people, and you're bringing them to Texas, which is a Southwest thing, and you're bringing those two cultures together. It is going to be a clash. It's going to be awesome.
Nino, another thing too, to Chris's point though, where I will agree with Chris, is the anticipation for these schedules. It's gonna cause debate, right? There's no longer gonna be, there's no more gray area once the schedule comes out, because there's gonna be SEC fans that think that the SEC gave Texas maybe a bump.
Yeah.
Or there's going to be fans that think that the SEC is trying to haze Texas and OU with the schedule. Like, people are going to look at it any way they want.
I don't see how I can't speak for Oklahoma, because I think Oklahoma's going to have a little bit easier schedule. I do. I think you guys are going to get the Missouris. I think you guys are going to get. No, because that's you guys' region.
That was leading into my point, and I'll let you finish. But that was leading to my point.
Yeah,
was the two things that I'm excited about the most with this is to see kind of the new schedule you guys forge as far as going forward, because I think, like I said, we have ties kind of for some odd reason dating back to a lot of these teams and stuff. Hell, Ty, going back watching a lot of classic games, we played y'all awful lot throughout the 90s, to be honest with you. Bama or whatever, home and home series. But what I'm saying is that that's something that I'm really interested in for Texas. But the second thing is honestly, who gets the gauntlet? Who is going to have that schedule where you say, damn, that's a gauntlet? Like
Texas, because I'm telling you, it's gonna be Texas, because they're gonna want Texas LSU. I'm telling you, that's going to be a game, because that's going to be the border war. And as much as Texas A&M wants to make LSU their rivalry, LSU doesn't give a damn about Texas A&M. It is what it is.
I gotta see it. I gotta see it to believe it, because, and I know this has non-con shouldn't have a role in this, but Texas plays Michigan.
I don't think the SEC cares about that.
I know. I'm just saying, like,
y'all going to the big house? Y'all going up there, or y'all coming here? Oh,
we're going to Michigan.
Awesome.
Dude,
yeah. Okay.
You want to talk about seeing a Texas game on the road? Man, that'd be such a cool
That's
one
a destination.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
It's going to be an ugly ass game.
I might have to look into trying to go. That'd be so cool.
That burnt, nasty orange. Boy, it's going to be nasty out there.
Hey, it's going to be good, though. I can't wait till next week.
Ty, do you have a point that you want to make? Because I got a question for you before we get up out of here.
Yeah, look, I'm interested in seeing the schedules. I was a little bit disappointed we didn't get the 9 game with the 3 permanent.
I know, man. I'm pissed.
I really liked. Now, I understand why, right? Like, the whole reasoning Greg Sankey and the SEC are putting forth is, look, everybody says the SEC is the best conference in all of college football. If we're going to play an extra game, you're going to compensate us for an extra game. ESPN said, no, you're getting the contract as it stands. The SEC said, well, we're not going to go out there and play an extra high-quality game for the same paycheck that 8 games gives us.
Yeah.
So I get it from a business side, but from a fan, I just am like...
I hate that, man.
I liked the LSU. I know it was very hard, right? But the LSU, Auburn, Tennessee, because personally, I've said this to Chris, I think there's a new age rivalry, at least to me, with Alabama and LSU forming.
Yeah,
and I want to foster that. I want to foster that.
Look here,
I wanted that
Ty,
game.
my wife's family is from Alabama, and I'm gonna tell you, they Auburn's their rival. Okay, my sister-in-law is old enough to remember when it's Tennessee was their rival too. Like she hates Tennessee and LSU. Like she looks at those three, that's it. And it's really, to be honest with you, she says LSU's their number one rival now. Then Auburn,
Yeah.
and,
If
you know,
I was watching the
because they're
2019
competitive.
I was
Okay?
watching the 2019 game and I turned it off when two on that first drive when he fumbled the ball. I turned it off. I said no. I said this game even had me like going high,
That game
low,
was
low,
much
high.
closer than people
Yes.
remember.
Yeah,
now.
I
Yes,
That
was.
was a
man.
I mean,
phenomenal game.
yeah,
Look,
that
I
game
was
right there. So much talent on the
when
field.
that game
so
was
good.
getting played, Texas played Kansas State, I think, and I was at the game at Texas when the game was going on,
Yeah.
and I was like, damn, I'm missing having two screens and watching Texas versus Kansas State, and then watching LSU Bama, and I saw LSU go up on the board, and then Alabama came back storming, and I mean, look, man, I hate time with you. Give me 9 games. Please give me 9-3. I do not want to see Texas play, Abilene Christian or like Incarnate Worth before they play Texas A&M next year. That's not my idea of good football at week 11. It's just not my idea,
Hey, one last thing before we get out of here. This is something that is I don't know why, but it lit a fire underneath my seat, man. The other day, it got me pissed. It got me rowdy, y'all. I saw a mock draft. All right. And I saw the number 1 pick, and I said to myself, what is the point? So stupid me, silly me, I went and looked in the comments and I said, this is crazy. The Kyler Murray slander is real. Caleb Williams going number 1, he's projected number 1 to go to the Cardinals is sickening. It's crazy to me.
Why?
Because, and this is not a shot at Riley, but this is all I have to say. It's crazy because all the comments, everybody who talks about it, even a lot of the analysts or whatever, they say, oh, well, Kyler Murray doesn't like to watch film. Kyler Murray doesn't do this, or Kyler
His
Murray's
biggest
not
problem
doing
is
that.
the new Call of Duty came out right when the football season started.
That too. But listen to me. My thing is that now Caleb is being crowned like, oh yeah, Kate Miss got to do this, got to do that. I'm like, dude, he's coming from the same coaching tree. If this guy has those same problems, why won't he have those problems? And credit to my uncle. My uncle's like, well, Jalen Hurts didn't have a problem. I was like,
I think it's more of the person. I think it's the leadership.
It's the person.
It's the person, man.
It's
I
the person.
don't know, man. It's
But
just-
Chris, we've
just
all
hurt
known
me.
this. All right, so me and Steven followed Texas high school football recruiting pretty heavily as well.
Yeah.
And you hear the backstories of some of the antics that were pulled when he was playing high school ball. And so it doesn't surprise us when he goes to Oklahoma and when they get beat by Texas and he doesn't want to shake hands, doesn't have sportsmanship. It doesn't surprise you when he goes to the league and still looks like he hasn't matured and grown up. Doesn't surprise me just by knowing the stories that we've heard about the 16-year-old kid.
Yeah, and Chris,
Go ahead,
let me say this. Kyler Murray, and I continue to say, Kyler Murray is the best high school football player I've ever watched in person in my life. And I watched him on the same field with Myles Garrett. It's best high school football player I've ever seen in person in my life. Incredible, okay? But to Nino's point, those things, especially at the NFL level, and you know how they are, and they're tedious with these things. Those things are going to continue to be a problem until they aren't. Quite frankly,
they're going to be magnified even more.
They're going to be magnified until they aren't. Until, especially when a DeAndre Hopkins, who's a free agent, comes out and says, "I want a quarterback who's serious. I want a quarterback who watches. I want a quarterback." Blah blah blah. And it's like the thing is, Kyler is able to get away with being average in the NFL off of whatever he's doing, right? Because of how talented he is. And the thing is he ever going to actually take this seriously, like a job, like a profession?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the maniacal focus that so many other guys have, or is it always going to be, I just play ball and that's what I do, and that's my like 9 to 5 type thing?
But
Catch me on Search and Destroy this evening.
here's my
Yeah.
point. Here's my point though. I don't necessarily call what he's done in the league average because I mean I'll be honest with you, 2 years ago, about 10 games, 10, 11 games in the
Oh, he was
season,
outstanding.
people were talking about him being the MVP of the league. They were trying to push him as the face, all the rest of those things.
And then the
Then
last
he
7
gets
games, he fell
injured
out.
and
Yeah.
goes down. But I think that maybe it's not that he hasn't grown up, the personality, all the rest of that stuff, because some of those same things you guys are talking about, you hear a lot of that at OU. But I think maybe it's just the structure that he has around him. I'm not talking about like family or whatever. I'm talking about with Kingsbury or whatnot. Maybe that's the atmosphere, or that's just the coaching, the bubble that was allowed to go on. I
So
mean,
Chris,
I don't know. Maybe that's what
Chris,
was going on.
I can't put that on the
yeah.
coaching because you're a grown man now. This is
I get it.
when you're the quarterback, no matter who is the coach of that team, that's your damn team. Especially when you're
But
number one player.
to be fair to Kyler Murray, we actually get to see this season. He is coming back from a torn ACL. He looks good. I give him credit for he was already, you know, hitting 400 on the squat rack, no problem. 13 weeks post op. That tells me you've been putting in work, right?
Yeah.
You can't be on the video game squatting that much 13 weeks post op. You're putting in work, okay? So to be fair to Kyler Murray, though, this is his opportunity to reintroduce himself to the league and say, hey, I am that number one overall pick, and a new system with a new Kingsbury completely removed from everything to put those things to bed, to put those doubts to bed. He can do that. If he comes out and he looks and he gets injured again, he's still injury prone and he has the same problems and he's inconsistent, then and Arizona's bad again.
The question's going to still be there.
I mean, I mean, the thing about it is though, is that, you know, with Kyler, this type of season that I think that he's gonna have, or this season that he's entering with a new coaching staff or whatever, it was inevitable. We knew it from the get go, but they held on to Kingsbury long enough. Kingsbury did some good things in the league. You can't discredit what he did, but I just never thought that he was the coach. Another thing for me was the fact that, you know, when you look at the defense, they had some guys, but you had really about 4 guys. You had I can't remember the other D lineman that they had, but outside of JJ Watt, they lost that other D lineman to the Raiders this year. Then you had Byron Murphy and Buda Baker and Simmons.
Yeah, and they have not.
Yeah, about 4 or 5 guys.
They didn't pick up their 5th year on Isaiah Simmons, so that just tells you what type of franchise.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like
that's over there.
Yeah, you never had that defense. You never had any of that stuff. And when they got to the playoffs, obviously they look terrible because.
But Chris,
yeah,
here's the issue. Here's the issue. I'm gonna just be blunt. In regards to Caleb Williams, it's how the league feels about you. And right now, from everything we've heard, we're still a year away from him going through this process. But assuming he stays healthy and he continues to play at the level he's played, the league looks at Caleb Williams as a Mahomes-ish type prospect. That's what they say. It's not what I'm saying. I'm not out here pushing that because I don't like comparing players to
current greats.
Guys. I think I've made that speech before, so I'm not going to do. But that's what the league says.
Yes,
okay.
Exactly.
And so when they look at that, they may say, "Look, this isn't an anti-Kyler Murray decision. This is we don't want to trade against a guy that's a generational prospect that we have on the same level as a Trevor Lawrence and an Andrew Luck.
Yeah,
that might be what it is versus." Being about Kyler.
I just think that the similarities are there. Go ahead, Ty.
So no, I wanted to piggyback exactly off of what Steven says. We talk about this all the time. The NFL draft will make or break GMs. They will get fired. And the problem is I don't disagree with you, Chris. I think Arizona has bigger issues. Like their offensive line is a problem. And we see this time and time again. Teams will have bigger issues and they'll continue drafting a quarterback. And then in 2 drafts, they're back drafting a quarterback. And it becomes a vicious circle. But Steven, you put this so beautifully, and this is what people need to understand. the Arizona Cardinals GM is not going to put himself in a position to not take Caleb Williams, because then if the number 2 team takes Caleb Williams and Kyler Murray, knock on wood, twists his ankle game 1 and is out for 6 weeks, he's done. If
Yep.
Caleb is just good his first year, not great, I mean just a good NFL, that GM is done, because he'll be known as the guy that passed on Caleb Williams when the Cardinals may have had quarterback issues. Whether they truly do or not, the court of public opinion is powerful, and that's the verdict that's out there.
Yeah.
No, I mean,
Amen.
and you all make good points. I just thought that it was pretty interesting, especially with a lot of the similarities, knowing that they're coming from that same coaching tree and all the rest of that, and that's already a knock on Oklahoma quarterbacks. Who's that with the echo?
Steven.
God.
Nah, but look,
He on
you
that,
know,
he on that Texas Public Library Wi-Fi.
hey man, don't be hating on the
It is-
Texas Public Library, man. It's all good, baby.
Wi-Fi. But
Steven, don't
anyway,
listen to him, dog. Don't listen to him, Steven.
I just thought it was an interesting point just to make, man, just a conversation to have that, that I don't know. Maybe I'm oblivious as all get out to a lot of the extracurriculars, because it just
Come
to
on,
me,
Chris.
I think there's too many similarities.
I know that's your team, and you put blinders on certain things, but you even understand Kyler was not the most involved person on the sideline. He was not like a leader amongst men in that field,
Yeah,
and maybe
no.
because he didn't have to be, because you guys had a lot of structure there. But at some point, your quarterback has to be a guy that has to take over. He has to be a guy like, if I'm drafting you, even Trevor Lawrence, he might not be the most rah-rah guy, but when it came down to go win a game,
They knew who the man was.
they knew who the man was. They
Yeah.
knew who to listen to. And I never saw that at Oklahoma with Kyler, as great as he was as a player. And I won't say he's the best high school player I saw play, because I'm a little older than you guys, and I've seen Vince Young play in high school in person.
Oh God.
I've seen Cedric Benson play in person.
Oh God.
No. I'm just being honest. I've seen Tommy Harris play in person, and I've literally seen Tommy Harris play, and the offense would put 3 men on him as a true freshman in high school. So I mean, that shows you the level of how good of a player that he was. So yeah, I've seen Vince Young play in person, and I've seen what he's done. But Kyler Murray, by stats and by everything he's done, is probably the greatest Texas high school quarterback of all time, and I don't think it's close just by record alone. 3 seasons as a starter, 3 state championships, never lost a game since middle school. He's
3
that
and
good.
0.
He is that good, but he also had that good talent around him too. He had some amazing talent around him, and the schools are just built different the way that they recruit players to come play at their high schools these days. Now, but in saying that, yeah, there were always some rumblings behind the scenes about Kyler, and if he's another one. If he gets it up here and gets it in between their head, great things can happen for him. But you don't want to be the GM. You don't want to be the Bears GM who drafted Mitchell Trubisky and Patrick Mahomes got drafted 8 picks later.
Exactly.
You don't want to be the Jaguars GM who drafted Leonard Fournette and Patrick Mahomes got drafted 6 picks later.
Yeah, I know.
As great as Myles Garrett is as a defensive end, number 1 pick of the draft that year, you don't think the Browns wish they had Patrick Mahomes instead of Myles Garrett? Because they've been searching for a quarterback for a long time. For a long time.
The only pushback
Pat Mahomes
is
kind of molded into this. Obviously, people are kicking
Exactly.
themselves, but
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
I don't
Andy
know if the
Reid-
Browns would have turned him into what he is.
yeah,
I
Texas
can't.
Tech
Yeah.
Mahomes was different. You know,
No,
what I'm saying?
I mean, I'm just saying hindsight 2020, when you look back and you go look at the draft and you're saying, I picked
Sure.
him,
Yeah,
right? And so that's
I
just
think
the
the
fan
Browns-
talking.
I think the Browns. I don't think there's any Browns fans that are looking honestly at the Miles pick. I think where they look sideways is actually Baker
When-
and like not taking Josh Allen or like that, because they were talking about taking Josh Allen.
Yeah,
I think
don't
that's
know
where
how.
they kind of look sideways.
I
But
mean,
with
look at San Francisco 49ers getting Solomon Thomas. Like, he's not even in the league anymore, is he?
yeah,
That was a rough
he's-
draft for them, though.
Yeah. Corey Davis
That was
for the
rough.
Titans. Come on, man. Corey Davis.
But my thing with the Bears, this is where the Bears look really bad taking Trubisky. You passed on taking at that point in time, taking Mahomes at number 2 overall would have been wild.
It would have
coming
been
off
just
a
much
5
of a
and 7
risk as
season.
picking Trubisky. I mean, Trubisky had one season
But-
in the league.
But hold on,
I mean, in college.
they passed on Deshaun Watson,
Yeah.
who was kicking ass, and I knew for a fact Deshaun Watson was better than Mitchell Trubisky.
Yeah, exactly.
Even with the nonsense
Exactly.
off the field.
Exactly.
I'm like, come on. Like, that was where I'm like, they both were ACC guys. They went head up against each other.
Exactly.
Mitchell Trubisky couldn't even beat out the brother that was playing before him. I'm
Yeah.
like, come on.
Mitchell Trubisky
versus
is now. Who's he playing for now? Is it Pittsburgh still?
Pittsburgh. He's
a backup at Pittsburgh, and the two guys that pick after him are the two richest quarterbacks, or two of the top 5 richest quarterbacks that
Correct.
play this game.
Correct.
That GM got fired, I hope.
Mega fire.
Oh yeah, he did. He did get fired.
All right, guys,
Trubisky.
we've hit on
Fired
quite-
squared.
Who I used to call him Mitsubishi.
Why you calling him man Mitsubishi, man? It made no
Because I'm
damn
like,
car.
who's this guy Mitsubishi? They're drafting this guy Mitsubishi instead of Deshaun Watson, who was cooking Bama. I don't get
Yeah,
it.
no, true. True.
Dude.
I was
So-
so happy when he left, only for them to get Trevor Lawrence and then cook Bama the next year. I was like, come on.
Hey, man, talking about Trevor Lawrence, though, man. Hey, Trevor Lawrence is that guy. I am excited to see what he's going to do with Doug Peterson, man. I mean, he's it's refreshing to see him have great coaching at the quarterback position because he's going to be great, man. I mean, he's the next one. He's the next one.
Shout out to Urban Meyer, who was the only coach on the planet that almost ruined
Trevor
Trevor
Lawrence.
Lawrence.
How can you
I
screw up
got
Trevor
him
out
Lawrence?
of there. Guys, speaking of SEC Connect, can't wait to see Swamp Kings. We might have to do a Swamp Kings recap or breakdown after that documentary of the 2006 to 2009 Urban Meyer-led Florida Gators. We might have to do, I don't know if you guys are in on
When's
this.
it coming
but,
out? Hold on. When's it coming out?
Swamp Kings comes out. It's let me see real quick.
Is it
Boy, that's going to
Well-
be a trip. Because those Florida teams were wild.
Hold on, I'm bringing it up on 3. Release date is August 23rd. August 23.
It's coming up.
Hey, you guys there?
So
Yeah.
right before the season starts, we might have to do like a special Swamp Kings review.
Sounds good to
for
me.
the fans.
Look,
I think
I'm
people
down
would
with it.
enjoy that because I think a lot
It's-
of college football fans obviously are very familiar with that 2006-2009 Florida Gators team led by one Tim Tebow. And I think a lot of people, all of us, whether you're a Florida fan or not, we all remember and have vivid thoughts and memories about that team. And I think, just offering our thoughts, 14, 15 years post that, I think that would be good content.
Man.
So
Yeah, man, I'm not gonna make no jokes because a lot of I can't do it. But
it's not even
a lot
about
can be
jokes,
said
bro.
about-
It's about what happened, bro. They got Mercy Percy over
They-
there. They got Aaron
Dude, they had
Hernandez.
Percy.
They got
They had the mount. They had a murderer, all led by a preacher. You know what I'm saying, dude? What is going on here, man?
Just remember,
Only in
Praise
America.
be.
Jesus hung out with the outcasts.
Only in America.
Only in America.
Swamp Kings, August
Don
23.
King, only in America.
Netflix.
Yeah. All right, I gotta watch it. All right, guys, we've been on like an hour and a half, man. Let's get this thing out. We're gonna talk about the schedules next week. I was thinking about not being able to show up next week because I gotta change jobs in the Air Force. Parents are coming down. I got to do a whole briefing and stuff. But now that the schedules are coming out, you might see your boy on here Wednesday night anyways. Until my mom said I love you, but I'll be up in an hour. So we gotta talk about these schedules, dog. So all right, man. Until next week, folks.
That's it.
Boomer.
Deuces.
Welcome. Peace.
Boo.
You know,
No, this ain't gonna stand. We good. We good.
Boo.
hey, and that same are we off?
Boo,
hold on,
Chris.
hold on, wait.
Boo.
I press in
Boo.
broadcast, and it's
I'm just gonna keep booing Chris.
Boomer.